Hi everyone, welcome again. In the last class, we have seen that how social reforms also help in growth of nationalism. In this regard, we have learned about Raja Ram Mohan Rai. Now let us understand about the second person, Jyotiba Phule. Jyotiba Phule was an urban educated member of so-called low caste. His education and personal experiences had made him critical of Hindu religion and customs. So Jyotiba Phule, he was of low caste, and we all know that in Asian times we can say, or in British time also, there is a lot of difference between lower caste and upper caste. Okay, so he was a lower caste person, and therefore he was not very much happy with the Hindu religion, as in this religion lower caste are treated very differently. He was an educated person. Now let us understand various works done by Jyotiba Phule. Jyotiba Phule worked for upliftment of women. He considered women superior to men, and to maintain their status of superiority he wanted to provide education to women. In 1851, Jyotiba Phule, along with his wife Savitri Phule, started one of the first girls' school in Pune. In 1854, he established a school for untouchables and started a private orphanage for the widows. He pioneered the widow remarriage movement in Maharashtra and worked for the education of women. He wanted to liberate the depressed classes and make them aware of their rights by educating them. So we can see that he worked as an educationist. His thinking was that women are superior, and for that his thinking was that they should be educated. So when the women will be educated, then they will be superior than men's. And for this, along with his wife Savitribai Phule, he started a girls' school in 1851. Similarly, he also established a school for untouchables and opened a orphanage for widows. He also started widow remarriage. He considered the caste structure prevalent in India as the epitome of slavery. In his famous book Gulamgiri, he described the hardships and distress felt by the lower caste. So generally, lower caste people, they work as gulam. Okay, they work as slave, and this caste system was a very good example of this slavery. Social justice for the lower caste. He founded Satya Sodhak Samaj in 1873 with the aim of securing social justice for the weaker sections of the society. He was also from the lower caste, so he understood the difficulties faced by lower caste, and for that, in 1873, he founded Satya Sodhak Samaj. The socio-religious reform movement contributed to the onset of Indian nationalism in the following way. So, this movement it bring nationalism in Indians. How the Swami Dayanand and Swami Vivekanand proclaimed the superiority of Indian culture and civilizations. Swami Dayanand and Swami Vivekanand, they are the persons who says that Indian culture is superior. They the reforms condemned untouchability and the caste system. The ideas of brotherhood and equality attached the so-called lower caste. So the reforms it condemned the untouchability. Untouchability, lower caste, you cannot touch them, they cannot touch anyone. So this kind of system was there. So there was a reform means it was felt that this system is not right, and because of this, the idea of brotherhood and equality it also came in the lower caste. The reform taught people not to ignore the importance of women who could participate in the national women. These reforms also make people realize that women are also important in the society and their participation in the national movement is important. They protested against the British domination of India. Swami Dayananda Saraswati was the first to use the word Swaraj. Swaraj means our own country, and raises the slogan India for Indians. And the first time Swami Dayanand he raises the slogan India for Indians. That means this country is for Indians. So all these reform movements it created a consciousness of new society devoid of privileges based on caste, creed or religion. So we have seen that how this socio-economic movements they also help in growth of nationalism in the Indians. Now let us see role of press. Large number of newspapers were started in the later half of 19th century. Some of the prominent newspapers were the Amrit Bazar Patrika, the Bengali, the Tribune, the Pioneer, the Times of India, the Hindu, and the Statesman in English. Many other newspapers and magazines in the vernacular languages were also bought out. These newspapers played a significant role in developing a strong national sentiment among the Indians. It did so in the following manner. So we can see that in the later half of 19th century, lot of newspapers they came into picture, and these newspapers they help in bringing the sentiment of nationalism among the Indians. How? It was through the press that the message of patriotism and modern liberal ideas of liberty, freedom, equality, home rule, and independence spread among the people. The press carried out daily criticism of the unjust policies of the British government in India and exposed the true nature of British rule in India. So first thing was that these newspapers they are bringing the news of freedom, equality, liberty, okay, from different parts of the world. Also, these newspapers they are criticizing different unjust policies of the British, and thus they are exposing the nature of British in India. It made possible the exchange of views among different social groups and different parts of the country and to organize political movement. So with the help of these newspapers, it became possible that different political movements can be organized. It made Indians aware of what was happening in the world. The awareness helped them to understand the political and social development of the outside world and shape their own policies and programs. So with the help of newspaper, they are able to understand that what is happening around the world, and thus they can shape their own policies and the program. Precursors of the Indian National Congress. By the second half of 19th century, there emerged a consciousness among the Indians that the British were exercising control over the resources of India and the lives of its people, and until their control was ended, India could not be a sovereign nation. So by the second half of 19th century, everyone understand, or everyone begin to understand that until and unless the British Raj will not end in India, we will not get our sovereign nation. The consciousness led to the formation of number of political association led by English educated professionals. So this consciousness it resulted in formation of number of political associations, and yes, in many of the associations it was led by English educated professionals. Though many of these associations were formed in specific parts of the country, they had a common goal for all the people of India. So we can see that these political associations they are formed in different parts of the country, but their motive is to achieve freedom for the whole India. They did not work for any one religion, community or class. The first political association to be started in India was the Landholders Society in Calcutta in 1838. So first such society or first such political association was Landlords Society in Calcutta, and actually they are not fighting for their religion or their community or their class. They are fighting for whole India. Many public associations were started in different parts of India, like Bengal British India Society, British Indian Association, East India Association, the Pune Sarvajanik Sabha, London Indian Society, and Indian Association. These associations served as the base for the formation of Congress and all India political organizations. So first small organizations framed in different part of the country, and then we can say that they all come together and they form All India Congress Party. The most prominent among these associations were the following. Now let us understand two or three prominent associations. As let us discuss East India Association. The East India Association was founded in London in 1866 by Dadabhai Nehruji. You can see Dadabhai Nehruji. So in 1866 it was founded by Dadabhai Nehruji. He was in London then, so this association was formed in London. The association provided information on all Indian subjects to British citizens and members of parliament. Now this association, this East India Association, this association is for to give informations on all Indian subject to the British citizens and members of the parliament. So in British Parliament, this association, its job was to make them aware about different subjects of India. Different subjects of India means different matters of the India, you can say. It voiced the grievances of Indians and suggested remedial measures. So it also put forward grievances, the problems of Indian in front of, we can say that in front of British members. Dadabhai Naoroji, the grand old man of India, was the opinion that the British were basically just and good. He wanted to place the true state of affairs in India before the people of England so that the problems of Indian may be resolved. The association had its branches in Mumbai, Kolkata and Chennai. So according to Dadabhai, the Britishers, or you can say that the British were basically just and good. So he, in his opinion, they are good, but they are not doing good in India. So he wanted to make them understand the problem faced by Indians and wanted to resolve it. And therefore, this East India Association was framed. Second association that we will discuss is Indian Association. In 1876, it is formed. The Indian Association was meant to be an all India movement. So this Indian Association was formed for all India movement. It was headed by Surendranath Banerjee. The association had lawyers, professionals and educated middle class as its member. The association had branches in Bengal as well as in towns outside the Bengal. The objective of Indian Association include, so here this Indian Association, it was formed by this person called Surendranath Banerjee, and its objective was to do a all India movement. Now in this association we have lawyers, professionals and educated middle class. It has different branches outside Bengal also. So its main branch is in Bengal and there are many branches outside. The objective of the Indian Association include criteria of a strong body public opinion, creation of a strong body of public opinion, integration of Indian people on the basis of common political interest. So its objective was that we have to gather all Indians for the common objective, promotion of friendly relations between Hindus and Muslims, and mass participation in public movement. So these are the objectives of this association. Ki Hindus and Muslims should be together, because if they are together then 1 and 1 11 we can say na, that the strength will increase. Their objective is to have mass participation in public movement. Whenever there is any public movement, large number people will come and take part. Their objective was to create a strong body of public opinion, and so on. Now, what is their achievement? What they achieve? It launches agitations against oppressive acts such as the License Act, the Arms Act, and the Vernacular Press Act. So, lot of uh, we can say that there are different laws which are not in favor of public, or we can say that they are oppressive in nature. These laws are there to suppress Indians, and therefore this organization means this Indian association, it launches agitations against all these laws, and against lowering the age limit from 21 to 19 year for the Im- Imperial Civil Service, ICE, Imperial Civil Services. So we have seen that the age to give exams for civil services were decreased from 21 to 19, and this make Indians too difficult to join these services. It also took up the cause of workers on the British owned plantations. However, the association failed to attain an all India character. So the aim of this organization is to become the voice of all India, but it failed in achieving it. Now let us see the next organization, that is Indian National Congress, 1883. So in 1883, Surendranath Banerjee convened the All India National Congress at Kolkata. It was a provincial organization. It offers a model to the Indian National Congress, which was formed 2 years later. Since both these bodies served the same purpose, that is to work to the welfare of Indians, it merged with the Indian National Congress in December 1886. Okay, so this person, Surendranath Banerjee, who started Indian Association, in 1876, he also started Indian National Congress at Kolkata. Now these two organizations, their objective was same, and therefore this Indian National Congress and this Indian Association, they merged after 2 years in 1886, and its name was changed to National Congress in December 1886. So this is how the birth of National Congress happened. So in 1886, National Congress came into picture. This National Congress, it plays a very important role in the freedom fight of India. So let us understand it in little detail. Formation of Indian National Congress. Various political organizations mentioned earlier were local in character. However, their activities had prepared the ground for creation of an all India political association. So we have seen that small political organizations came into picture. Uh, they are local in nature, but they prepare a ground for all India political association. While the Indian leaders like Surendranath Banerjee, Dadabhai Naroji, Firoz Shah Mehta, Badrud, Badruddin Tayyabji, and Justice Ranade were moving towards the formation of all India political bodies. Luckily for them, help in this direction came from a strange source, that is from A.O. Hume. Okay. Now our Indians like Firoz Shah Mehta, Surendranath Banerjee, Dadabhai Naoroji, they are all trying to make all India political party, and in this direction, the help came from A.O. Hume. Now who is this A.O. Hume? A.O. Hume is a retired British member of the Indian Civil Service. He was a retired British member. So this is a British person, and he initiated the formation of this National Congress. He wanted to set up an organization that would draw the government's attention to the administrative drawbacks and suggest means to rectify them. Now his idea was that we should frame such an organization which will try to draw the picture of government towards the drawbacks of their administration, and thus to suggest means to rectify them, and thus to suggest them how to rectify these drawbacks. So Hume wrote an open letter to the graduates of Calcutta University asking them to dedicate themselves to the services of the people by forming a union to organize a well defined course of action. This appeal produced the desired result. So for this, what he done? He written a open letter. Open letter is like you write a letter and publish in newspaper. So it is a open letter which everyone can read. So Hume wrote an open letter to the graduates of Calcutta University asking them to dedicate themselves. So this letter was for Calcutta graduates to motivate them to work for the people, to dedicate their life for the people. And this letter serves the purpose, means many people came forward for this purpose. In 1884, Hume, in consultation with Indian leaders, laid the foundation of Indian National Union. So in 1884, with the help of Indian leaders, Mr. Hume, he laid the foundation of Indian National Union. The conference of representatives of different part of India was convened by the Union at Pune on December 25, 1885, and thus with his efforts, one conference was held in 25 December 1885. One conference was held. Where it held? It held in Pune. Plague broke out in Pune at that point of time. So the meeting of the union was held at Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit College, Mumbai. Now, at the same time, there was plague. Plague is again, we can say that a disease, like today we are suffering from corona. There is a big pandemic corona. At the same like this, there are many periods in past also. Different diseases came and gone. So plague was such kind of disease which broke in Pune, and because of that, they have to shift their meeting. And this meeting was then held at Gokul Das Tejpal Sanskrit College. It was in Mumbai, and this meeting held on 28 to 31st 1885 under the presidentship of Vomesh Chandra Banerjee. It was attended by 72 delegates. So 72 different delegates, 72, we can say that different persons, they came and attended this meeting. On the suggestion of Dadabhai Naroji, the name of union was changed to Indian National Congress. So Dadabhai Naroji, he suggested that we should change this union, and thus the name was changed to Indian National Congress. Thus the foundation of Indian National Congress was laid on December 28, 1885. So this is how the foundation for Indian National Congress was laid. When it was laid in December 28, 1885. Where it was laid? So it was laid in Tejpal Sanskrit College, which is in Mumbai. The Viceroy Lord Dufferin favored the formation of Congress because he wanted it to act as a safety valve for the popular discontent, thereby safeguarding the British interest in India. The Congress stood for the hope and aspirations of the people of India who accepted its leadership in launching the freedom movement. It achieved the goal of freedom in 1947. So here the Viceroy, Lord Dufferin, he was also in favor of the formation of this National Congress. According to him, what was his thinking, that this Congress will act as a safety valve. Safety valve, as in pressure cooker, you find there is a safety valve. Okay, sometimes if the gas is not coming from the nozzle, then because of some reason, then that safety valve, it burst and gas is removed, and it avoid any dangerous situation. So here Viceroy also think that this Congress will be a safety valve. It will safeguard the British interest in India, acting as a safety valve. So therefore he was in favor of it, and thus the Indian National Congress was formed. Aspirations of the people of India who accepted its leadership is launching the freedom movement. Now the people of India, they want that this Indian National Congress, it will launch Indian freedom movement, and it done this thing, and it achieved its goal of freedom in 1947. Now let us see the goal, or we can say the aims of the Indian National Congress. So let us discuss what are the aims of Indian National Congress. In his presidential address at the first session of Indian National Congress, W.C. Banerjee declared the following as the aim of Indian National Congress. So W.C. Banerjee was declared as the president of this Indian National Congress, and in the first meeting he declared following aim. First, to promote friendly relation between nationalist political worker from different part of the country. So its first aim was that we will promote the friendly relations, means in different part of the country there are different political workers. We should create a friendly relation between them to achieve our objective, to develop and consolidate the feeling of national unity irrespective of the caste, religion or the province. The second aim was to consolidate the feeling of national unity, to create a feeling of national unity, okay, irrespective of caste, religion or province. They should not consider their caste first, they should consider their country first. There should be a feeling of national unity. Third, to formulate popular demand and present them before the government. To formulate popular demands. So what are the popular demand of the people? To present them before the government. This was again one of their aim. And last, to train the organized public opinion in the country. To train and organize the public opinion in the country. The Congress held its sessions every year in December to chalk out programs to achieve its aims. So from then every December then started their sessions, they started their meeting, and this meeting was held in every year in December to frame or to understand what are the different programs they have to do to achieve their aim. Changes were made in the above mentioned aim of the Congress from time to time according to changed circumstances. So in every meeting, as there is new circumstances, there are new we can say that new scenarios. So in every meeting you can find that these aims there are little bit changes. So whenever you frame some aim, as the time passes you feel or you find little bit changes in that. So the same thing happened here also. The first session of Congress under the presidency of W.C. Banerjee was attended by 72 delegates from all parts of the India, including such eminent persons as Dadabhai Naoroji, K.T. Talang, Firoz Shah Mehta, Badruddin Tayyabji, G. Subramaniam Iyer, Anand Charlu, N.G. Chandravarkar and Justice Ranade. So the first session, it was under the presidency of W.C. Banerjee. See, this is the person, W.C. Banerjee, and there were 72 delegates who attended this meeting. The second session of 1886 was held at Calcutta under the presidency of Dadabhai Naoroji. Some of the delegates were received by Lord Dufferin as distinguished visitor to the capital. Thereafter, the National Congress met every year in December in different part of the country, and the number of its delegates soon increased to thousands. So initially we have seen that there are 72 delegate, okay, then second meeting was held in 1886, and then after that it started happening every year in December, and we have seen that soon the number of delegates increased to thousands. The Surat session, 23rd session, the 23rd session, okay, of the Congress was held in 1907. So it started its journey from 1883. Okay, we can see that the date of first session was somewhere 1885. So 1885. Now 23rd session was in 1907 under the presidency of Ras Bihari Ghosh. There was a dispute between the early nationalist and the assertive nationalist of the Congress regarding the method of agitation in Bengal after its partition. So during that 1917 there was partition of Bengal, and the method how they are agitating, how they are expressing their, what we can say, that their discomfort. Okay, so how to agitate, there was a dispute in this, and there was a split in the Congress, and because of this the Congress was split. The assertive group was excluded from the Congress nearly for a decade, and the assertive group, this group was excluded from the Congress party, and this was excluded for about 10 years. It was only in 1916 that the two wings of the Congress were united at Lucknow session, and after 10 years in 1916 they again united. Means that there was a dispute. Some people think that this method of agitation is not good, some will think that this method of agitation is not good, and therefore there was a division. Along with the division of Bengal, there was a division in Congress also, and this assertive group, it was came out of this Congress party, or you can say that the Congress party has removed this assertive group, and again because their motive is same, so again in 1916 they unite together. And finally let us see the important resolutions at the sessions of the Congress. So 23rd session, which is in 1907, there was a split between the two wings. 26th session, which is in 1911, the national anthem Jan Gan Man was sung for the first time. And 31st session, which is held in 1916, the joint session with the Muslim League and the signing of Lucknow Pact. 39th in Belgaum in 1924, the Mahatma Gandhi presided over the session. 44th in Lahore, which held in 1929, declaration of Purna Swaraj. So in 1929, the Congress session, it declared the Purna Swaraj, that we want the whole country, and to launch a civil disobedience movement. And in 51st, in 1938, Subhash Chandra Bose was elected as the president. So these are few of the important, we can say that, milestones in National Congress, or we can say that different important resolutions which are passed and different time frames. I think you should remember all these dates, all these years, along with number of session and what happened. So this chart you must remember. Yeah. So thank you. We have seen how this nationalism, this feeling of nationalism, there was a birth of feeling of nationalism in India, and we have seen this in different points. So let us meet again with a new chapter, new topic. Thank you.